So what you're gonna need for this job is you're gonna want a jack. You're gonna want some sort of flat piece to gain some leverage. I had a scraper here. I always keep a pipe with me, just in case I need to get leverage. You're gonna need a 14mm socket and a 19mm socket. The 14mm socket is for the slider pins on the caliper. The 19mm socket are for the two bolts on the caliper bracket. So if you have a 19mm and a 14mm sockets, you'll be good with them. And then what you're also going to want is you're going to want an open end wrench, 14mm, and you're going to want an open end wrench, 19mm, which is somewhere around here. I'd also keep a hammer with you just in case you can't get that rotor off. Obviously a jack, some power lube. It doesn't really matter what brand, but anything to get rusty nuts off or bolts, you're gonna want that. And then lastly, don't forget this. This is going to help save your caliper and keep it lasting forever. You're gonna want some brake and caliper grease. Doesn't matter what brand it is. Napa makes it, CRC. Just get something similar. You could pick it up at your local AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts or O'Reilly or wherever you go. And you're gonna wanna put that on the slider pin, so I'll show you how to do that in the video. And then lastly, you're going to need a clamp to clamp down on your piston, push it back in, so you can get new brake pads in there. All right, so we're gonna get started on this, and I'm gonna show you how to change the rotor and brake pads on the rear of a 2010 Nissan Altima. Make sure you put these somewhere safe so you don't lose them. I'm going to put them in the trunk of the vehicle here. And let's see if this thing's going to come on. Alright, so normally these things get stuck on these kind of cars. Sometimes you can kick it. If it doesn't come off when you kick it, you can always lower the jack very slowly and let the weight of the car kick it off. You just want to be careful not to fall, not to let your whole car fall on the ground though. Another thing you're going to want to do is once you get this off, it's best to stick it under the rotor if you don't have a backup jack, just in case your jack might fail. So we're going to do that, and then what we're going to do next, and we're going to penetrate with oil some of the bolts we need to get to. So we're going to need to get to these two back bolts that hold on the bracket of the caliper, if you want to get the camera in there. So you have a back bolt right here, and then there's another one directly below it. And those are going to both be behind the rotor there. So I'm going to get the penetrating oil on it. Now the reason why we're putting some penetrating oil on this is because they're already going to be hard to get off. These things do tend to get stuck onto the vehicle very easily. So you just want to go straight to penetrating oil, because you can waste more time trying to get these bolts off than anything else, and it could honestly double the length of the job that you're trying to get done on this vehicle. And I'm sure everyone wants to save time. All right, so you're going to want to remove these bracket bolts. That's the first thing you're going to want to do. And let's see how the oil worked. Alright. Oil's not working, we might need some leverage. A lot of times if you're having trouble getting these things off, you can always stick a pipe on it and break that piece off. We're epically failing right now. Alright, so once you find a way to get these things off with enough leverage, you can break them loose eventually. And this should come out with your hand. Here's that bracket bolt from the bracket caliper. And don't want to lose this washer. So I'm going to stick this in the trunk. Other one off here. See how this comes? Show you what we're going to do with this. Got that loose. Once you get that loose, all you want to do is, this isn't going to totally thread out. You can actually just pull it out eventually once the threading is off. So this bolt's going to come out. A lot of times these bolts have grease on them, and I'll show you why. There we go. Alright, so that should free up this caliper. Bring this down. Alright, so we're going to let this chill down like this. What this is going to do is this is going to give us easier access to get to that back bottom bracket bolt. And then while we're at it, we can remove these. And as you can see on this vehicle, these are extremely worn down. You don't want to get them to this point at all. Which is probably why we're having issues with the rotor now, and why the rotor needs to be replaced. And there's the other brake pad. Totally worn down. As you can see, this is actually kind of crazy. This ran out of ceramic and actually started wearing down on the nub of the bracket here on the brake pad. That I've never seen before. But you can tell the rotor was definitely rubbing away at this, which was probably taking a lot away from the rotor as well. This is actually Ronald McDonald's daily for a long time. He would take this car to work every day. We can get this on now. Alright, so I'm using this pipe again to get some leverage. So what we're going to do next, we're going to put the new rotor on. Okay, so the new rotor is on. What we're going to do is we're going to put this little thing back on. I don't really know what this does, but what I believe it does is gives you access to the little spring on the parking brake. If you come in here and look, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a little flathead screw in there that is adjustable on the parking brake spring. So I guess what that does is gives you access to control the tension on the parking brake without having to take the full rotor off. So you always want to put this back on, because what that's going to do is that's going to keep a lot of dust out of there, a lot of brake dust out of there rather. Okay, that's back in there like that. All right, you're going to want to have a clamp with you. I have one right here. So right now we're going to put the piston back into the caliper here. This piston is overextended because the brake pads were worn down. As they wear down, this thing extends more so you can continue to brake. How you're going to want to do this is you're going to want to position a clamp onto this. Now you want to make sure this is as centered as possible when you do it, so you don't break the actual seal that runs right around the perimeter here of the piston. That holds in all of your brake fluid. So if that thing breaks, you more than likely need a new caliper. So be very careful pushing this back in. Alright, so that's on there. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to pop our hood. And while someone pushes the piston back in, you're going to want someone to watch the brake master cylinder, which is right here. A lot of times what happens is this thing will overflow when you push your pistons back in. So make sure you pay attention to your master cylinder here. You do not want that thing to overflow. Now I'm gonna have the camera watch the master cylinder while I push this in. So I'm gonna start pushing this thing in, and the camera's gonna go watch the master cylinder in the engine bay. We're gonna check that. So it did move up a little bit, but it's not overflowed, so we're fine. And you just wanna put that back on so it doesn't attract any water. So when pushing that piston back in, you're gonna wanna really watch your master cylinder and make sure that doesn't overflow. Okay, so now we're gonna put these new clips back on, replacing the old clips. Now this kit came with several different sized clips. This thing takes the smaller size clips, which are both right here. You're gonna wanna push them into your bracket. They should be snug. They shouldn't be falling out or loose. They should go in there tight. Okay, so I haven't fully tightened up the bracket here, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna fully tighten up that bracket. Because we now have the rotor on. We don't need to have this bracket off anymore. Trusty pipe here to torque this down fully. Get these pads back on. These will slip right into the bracket like so. So you want to make sure these things are sitting in tight, right on the new metal brackets here that hold the pad in place. So I have this CRC brake and caliper grease. This thing's kind of essential to maintaining the life of your calipers. You're going to want to put this on the caliper sliding pins here. And what you're going to do is you're just going to want to get that grease all around that pin there. Put that back into the boot and slide it in and out just to get more grease in there. You can never really use too much of this stuff. Just make sure to get it on the pins only. So yeah, that's really going to preserve these boots here on the caliper. And a lot of times you can extend the life of your caliper if you continue to use that with every brake pad change. Alright, so this slider pin down here is all greased up, ready to go. We're going to slide this back on. We're getting news that Kobe Bryant died. It's kind of insane. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting this banjo bolt, or not banjo bolt, slider pin greased up. I'm going to put this back into the boot. Like this. You're going to want to grab your 14mm wrench, tighten these guys up now so they're on there tight. 14mm wrench. Alright. And that is how you change a rotor and brake pads on the rear of a 2010 Nissan Altima. You could save yourself a lot of money by doing this yourself, and you know, I mean, a lot of times for the rears you're looking at $600 for the labor on all the parts, whereas if you just buy the parts you're looking closer to like $120. So, and it's really not a hard job. You just gotta focus, pay attention, and make sure everything's tightened back up again. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the tire back on, and we're gonna go test drive this and see how the brakes work. Okay, so we finished up the brakes on the 2010 Nissan Altima. We're just gonna go take it out for a quick drive and see how it does. And we're just gonna test these brakes, make sure they work. Stop check. Don't hear any crazy rubbing. Car moves great. Car's stopping fine. I'd say this problem was successfully diagnosed. We found out we needed new rear brake pads as well when opening up the wheels and checking the calipers. And hopefully the customer will be real happy with the shake and bump. That's what we get paid for out here. One more brake test to end the video. Once we get past all these people, here we go. Stops great. Alright guys, well, until the next video, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please message me. If you feel like I did anything wrong, please tell me. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content, putting out a lot more videos in the future on several different types of cars. So stay tuned for that. Alright, have a good one.